Hi everyone, Jennifer Blevins-Smith with Integral Clinic Solutions, and you're watching my YouTube channel, Navigating the Business of Medicine. Today we're going to talk about the impacts of changing clearinghouses. Before I jump in, I just want to explain what a clearinghouse is. Think of it as a post office, and it's going to be responsible for sending and receiving anything that has to do with your claims. So they're going to help you submit claims to insurance companies. They're going to receive those remittance advices electronically, so the ERAs. They're going to assist you with enrolling for EFT payments, so automatic payments from insurances when you deserve some money. And they are the facilitator between your practice management or EMR system where you create claims and the payers who receive them. There could be multiple reasons why someone would need to change clearinghouses. This means that you are already operating and you need to change clearinghouses or want to change clearinghouses. Sometimes it's due to cost. Sometimes it's due to the level of quality of service that you're receiving or not receiving. It could be due to changing your practice management system software and it being compatible or only contracted with a certain clearinghouse. It also could have to do with some of the connections or lack of connections with certain payers. Most big player clearinghouses, Waystar, Tissot, Optum, Availity, they are going to connect with pretty much all insurances that offer an electronic connection. Now be mindful that not all insurances offer this. However, the big players will connect with the ones that they can. Some practice management systems or billing systems, EMRs, only will connect with one clearinghouse. So if you're using one EMR practice management system or using a billing company that uses different software and you have to go through a different clearinghouse, that could also be another reason why you would change. There are a lot of things to consider before you switch clearinghouses. It can go smoothly, but you have to plan ahead. You have to know what questions to ask before you make the decision. You have to know what to explore to consider what could go wrong so you can try to prevent it. And we're going to talk about that today. Usually, insurances will only allow you to be connected to one clearinghouse at a time. So you can't say, I am with Tissot right now, but I actually want to change to Optum, so you need to send to both. No, it doesn't work that way. It's one, and then you change to a different one. You can't have multiple connections. For this reason, you can have claim submission delays because you have to get a changeover from your old clearinghouse to your new one. And some insurances require enrollment in order to submit claims. Not all do, but there are some that do, like Medicare, TRICARE, some Medicaids. And if you have to wait in order to get everything set up on the new one, then you can have some claim submission delays, and that can cause some impacts negatively to the finances in your practice. The other thing that kind of piggybacks off of this is payer IDs, which is kind of like the address of submitting those claims to the correct insurance, can be different per clearinghouse. Some insurances, it's the same payer ID across the board at all clearinghouses, but others, there can be different ones. And if your system is set up for your old payer IDs with your old clearinghouse and you haven't updated them correctly, or you updated them incorrectly or not updated them at all, anyway, you can get rejections and denials, which will cause those claim submission rejections and denials and inadvertently being delayed. Okay, so it might not just be a setup issue of delay of switching, but it could be an actual, you need to look in your system and make sure everything's updated for your actual insurances by payer ID. Also, you could have some payment delays because As you switch bank accounts from one clearinghouse to another clearinghouse and try to get all that set up, sometimes just initial EFT setup can take 30 to 45 days. And if they don't just automatically generate paper checks and send them to you after adjudication, you might be seeing another negative impact to your finances if you don't anticipate this or if you're not aware of this. Again, you could be aware of it and it still negatively impacts, but at least you are prepared and you can communicate to the accountant, the bookkeeper, the owner, if you're not the owner, whomever needs to be like, look, if we do this transition, it's going to delay this, this, and this. Just be aware when we're running our finances that we need to consider that when we see any cash flow reducements, okay? So those are some of the big things to consider when it just comes to the actual clearinghouse changeover. Now we're going to talk about the downstream effects of changing clearinghouses. I have notes, so bear with me, but one of them is the revenue cycle delays in general. Like 1 week delay could compound and end up causing like a whole month delay. It might not just be, oh, it's only going to take this much time and it will be fine. You have to consider the snowball effect of how one little delay could end up being a larger delay with the downstream effects. Then you have the reconciliation craziness. I encourage best practice that you are confirming all of the ERA, EOBs you receive that say that the insurance paid you, that you look in the bank account for any of those automatic payments to ensure that you're receiving them. And if you have multiple clearinghouses as during the switchover and you have some ERAs, EOBs coming in different ways, and you're trying to switch your clearinghouse to be automatically depositing that money into your bank account, the reconciliation for this process could be crazy. So who's ever responsible for that responsibility is probably going to want to pull their hair out for a little while. It does get better assuming you follow all the steps and you transition everything fully and ensure everything processes correctly. However, the person or people who are responsible for this need to know the impacts and to anticipate that in their daily workload and to be able to put aside the proper amount of time it's going to take to reconcile everything. I have seen before where denial management gaps happen, where if you have an integration with one clearinghouse in your system and they provide certain electronic communication to your EMR or your practice management software when it comes to denials and appeals and things like that, when you disconnect that and you connect to another one, you might lose that data that's in there. So you might lose the claims that need to be worked because of denials. You might lose what you've submitted for appeals. And it's really important that you're running the proper reports and you're taking screenshots and you're doing all of that before you disconnect anything to ensure that you're double checking once you reconnect that either it is then showing again or you have the reports you're going to need to work from the old connection until those are completed and then simultaneously work with your new connection with anything new that comes in. Something to consider as well is the compliance factor. Every clearinghouse has a little bit different way of handling HIPAA and HIPAA breaches, things like that. You want to make sure that you read the BAA, you ask the right questions because they are going to have your patient's PPI and PHI, which is very, very important to know what the process would be if there's a breach, if there's some kind of hack. We know that Optum in February of 2024 now it was, had a huge hack HIPAA breach, and that affected a lot of people. It was really, really rough for a while, and it just needs to be known what their policy is, how they help if they have to shut down things, what the processes of communication to you about it is, things like that. Another thing to consider and ask about is if the clearinghouse offers real-time eligibility verification. This is a connection they would have with the payers that offer this feature, and they will connect with the insurance. Your system that you're using will tell them that you want that information from the insurance, and it pulls the eligibility and benefits verification into your system. So if your front office is manually verifying your insurance eligibility and benefits for patients, I would either check with your clearinghouse if you haven't already to see if there's a real-time electronic eligibility that they can be using. But if not, that might be something that would help you consider changing clearinghouses to one that does, depending on your volume and the amount of responsibilities that your front office or whoever's responsible for that has, and it's being difficult to get through other tasks because of the manual processes. Just some tips on how to effectively manage the transition from my point of view and having done it myself. You want to make sure, if you can, that you overlap your clearinghouses for at least one full billing cycle, whatever that is for your practice. Sometimes you're not able to do that, unfortunately, but if you can try to do that and communicate to both what your goal is to see if they can help you facilitate that is very important. You want to track your claim acceptance rates daily during the transition. Make sure that there's no connection issues, that the payer IDs are right. So anything that gets accepted by the clearinghouse and then ultimately by the insurance company, which is really important, you want to make sure that that is going as expected. And you should have numbers from your previous system to know what to expect and what your acceptance rates are. You want to maintain your dual EFT enrollments until it stabilizes. Now, again, this is usually not too, I don't want to say too difficult, but it is possible for EFTs with the insurances. However, usually with the ERAs, once you switch clearinghouses, they automatically just send all of them. It's not usually feasible to have two different clearinghouses on file with an insurance, or the clearinghouse that you're switching to tells you not to do that. So, you can ask. However, I would assume moving forward, you're not going to be able to, so that you can put the proper workflows and expectations in place. And then you want to make sure that you're communicating to your staff about the changeover and how this is going to change their responsibilities or extra things to be monitoring. The communication is going to be key during all of this. And you want to make sure you're communicating with the insurances that if you're going to have any downtime, that they're aware of it. I'm not sure fully that they will care, unfortunately. Things have changed a lot over the years with insurances and medical practice relationships. However, it never hurts to just put it out there. And you might need to change your SOPs when it comes to submitting claims, checking eligibility, working denials, all of that, posting payments, depending on if your old clearinghouse didn't offer certain efficiencies that your new one does, so you need to incorporate and kind of change that. But make sure all your staff trainings, SOPs are updated before you switch instead of trying to do it during the switch. It's going to be way too complicated if you try to do it during. So if you decide that you're going to change clearinghouses because of whatever reason it is, you're changing practice management systems, it's a cost issue, customer service related situation, efficiencies, you need to make sure you're doing your due diligence ahead of time, asking the right questions, exploring the capabilities, putting proper expectations with everyone involved as it comes to the negative impacts, because no matter what, there's going to be some kind of negative financial impact, no matter how clean and how well you plan it. And you need to make sure the staff who are responsible for tracking everything and part of this process is involved in knowing as well. And you just need to know what you know. So if you have any questions about this, I would love to try to help you. So please leave that in the comments below. Smash the thumbs up button if today's video was helpful. Subscribe to my channel if you have not already, and please share this with your colleagues. I appreciate the support, and we will see you next time.